Sidepods. They're there for cooling, they're there for downforce, and they need to have as low as drag as possible. They can be an engineering nightmare. There can be seconds between a good sidepod design and a bad sidepod design, so nailing this design is really crucial for your F1 season. With this in mind, let's take a look at the 2022 F1 team sidepod designs. Before I begin, please may you take the time to like and subscribe, as that will really help this new channel to grow as we would like it to. The first car I'll talk about is the Mercedes. Now, the Mercedes for me is the most shocking design, with basically no side pods and a very skinny back end. These lack of side pods could mean that Mercedes have cooling issues in the hotter races, but it's very aero efficient and could create lots of downforce due to the large floor that it has. It also has a very skinny rear end, used for pushing all of that dirty air straight back off the car to prevent the car getting any of the dirty air that it could leave behind. I can't really say that I'm too sure about how this Mercedes will work, as I'm not an aero expert. However, I do think it's interesting, and if they can fit all of their cooling into these side pods, I think it will be a very special car, and it could work very well. We also have two sets of the cheese graters, as I like to call them, which are there to release hot air from the car. The next car is the Red Bull. The Red Bull is kind of weird for me. To me, it looks like the side pods have just been half completed, but this is in order to have a really large floor. We also have a large entry into the side pods to allow cool air to come in to cool the car. The Red Bull side pod design, like the Mercedes, is also very striking and not what I was expecting. So, I can't really comment on the aero of it and how effective it will be, but I think if Red Bull have put it there, they must know it's doing quite well, so I'm keep an eye on the Red Bull car. The AlphaTauri car is a similar design to the Red Bull, only on a smaller scale. The floor is pushed less in underneath the side pods than the Red Bull is, and the sticky outside pods are smaller than they are on the Red Bull. There's also less of an inlet to let all that cool air in. I think AlphaTauri have gone for a very similar design to Red Bull, just on a less extreme scale. I think this could come back to either haunt them or help them later down at the start of the season, as if the Red Bull design works very well, then they'll want to push it more. However, if it doesn't, then maybe their design could become more effective than that of the Red Bull. The Alfa Romeo has gone to a very similar design with the AlphaTauri, with the same slightly outy side pods and a large floor. Again, not to the same extreme as that of the Red Bull. What they've also done, like the Aston Martin has, as you'll hear later, is, like AlphaTauri also, they've gone for a design to try and push all the air underneath the car, instead of over the top of the car, which sucks it to the bottom and creates much more downforce through the floor and prevents dirty air from getting in there. I have similar things to say for Alfa Romeo, like I did AlphaTauri, that it could come back to haunt them or help them, depending on how their design works throughout the season. However, that could be said for most teams. Another team, which I think is interesting and is one of my personal favourites, is the Aston Martin. Now, most teams have tried to push air around the sides of the car or above it. However, Aston Martin have opened up the front of their side pods, so all the air is going to be sucked underneath the car, creating a vacuum effect to suck the car towards the ground due to the air travelling underneath it. They've done this in a different way to every other team because they've angled their side pods in a slightly different way. Now, Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri have sort of gone for a halfway between Aston Martin and the rest of the teams as for what they've decided to do with their side pods. The next car I want to talk about is Haas. Now, Haas has gone for like what the old Mercedes was in Spain. So it narrows off at the end, which is a bit like the last year's cars. It's a very similar design to last year's, sort of. However, it also has the cheese graters to release the air. And it's very similar to what Mercedes had at Spain, like I've already said. The Alpine car is also like this. I say Haas and Alpine are very similar this year, along with what Mercedes was at the rear end. However, at the front, Haas and Alpine also, whilst being similar, have a few differences. At the front, the Alpine is a lot wider than the Haas is, which could create for more cool air to come in, but could also be more draggy. The McLaren is the most boring looking side pod that there is. However, it does seem effective. It will push the air over, a bit like last year's, quite simple, and it will create the downforce. The next two teams are two of the most eye-catching and, to be honest, the two that I don't understand the most. They are the Ferrari and the Williams, and they are the final two cars. The Ferrari has really wide sculpted side pods, which are sort of like big holes with the gills inside them. These long channels are used to push air out towards the rear wing and prevent dirty air from sitting there in the car. One problem that I think could be possible with this is if it's raining, then maybe it's possible that water could get trapped in. However, with the cars moving at that speed, I think it's highly unlikely. Williams also, like the Mercedes, have tiny side pods, which hardly even exist. They have quite large inlets which immediately cut down straight to the floor. The both interesting and confusing thing is that the side pods have a hole in them. And now I'm not talking about a hole like the Ferrari, where the sides have been sculpted out. I am talking about a literal hole. I can't really comment on what it's for, but all I can see happening is when it is raining, water getting inside it and getting in the internal works of the car. However, maybe it's some genius innovation and all teams will end up using it by halfway through the season. But I don't know. Thank you so much if you actually watched all the way to the end of this video. How about you leave a comment on which side pod was your favourite? And if you enjoyed it, how about you drop